Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Subhadramani Jaya Sudarshan Jaya Radha Gokulananda Radha Gokulananda Radha Jai Gaurika 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 Jaya Gaurika Jai Jai Prabhupada 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jai Jai Gurudev Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Shri Shri Radha Madhav ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Bhagavan ki jai, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Sudamai ki jai, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai, Gauranga Mahaprabhu Avirbhav Divas ki jai, Gaur Purnima Mahotsava ki jai. Thank you, devotees, for joining on this wonderful auspicious day of Gaur Purnima. Said that one who chants the name of Gauranga, all the miseries will be delivered, will be removed. And so when we are talking about Srimad Bhagavatam today, and if you remember Krishna, if you remember Gauranga, if you remember Srimati Radharani, then all that which is misery to our heart will be vanquished. So thank you all for joining. Let me just share my screen. Just give me a minute. Can someone confirm if you are able to hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji. We are able to hear and see the screen.
See this one. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay. So ideally, I was actually thinking today when I actually took the permission from Krishna Prabhu that I will complete the chapter soon, and then I will go about to sing some glories of Mahaprabhu. I thought about that. I had read this chapter earlier. But when I was studying the chapter, I realized that I won't be able to complete it. Prabhu said, yes, in 20-25 minutes you can complete. It's up to you, and then you can do. So he gave the okay. But when I started going in depth, reading about that, I didn't know if I'll be able to complete that. I thought, okay, let me go through this chapter only. And Krishna was so merciful, the Mahaprabhu was so merciful, that at the end, I read, this is one of those chapters when we start Phalastuti, we get wonderful phala if we at least hear or read this chapter. I read this chapter and was very happy. I'm really thankful to Raj Krishna Prabhu and other devotees who are managing Prabhu, Vipina Vihari Prabhu, and all these wonderful team who are managing this Bhagavatam, that I got the privilege to share this because the Falastuti is very nice. And what it is, I shall tell you later. Let me keep a little bit of suspense and then move out. Okay, so we'll use the slides. Our presiding deities, Jagannath Baladev Subhadramai, Nitai Chaitanya, Vamanadev, Ki Jai Jai Kar Ho Jai. Let's start with a little small prayers. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurunmritam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Nama Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Nama Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Samaveta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Okay, so before we start this class, I just want to say that there is Gaur Purnima, appearance day of Mahaprabhu. Also, a little, some good, some difficult things. Just as I was entering the class, Vrinda is my wife, my better half. She was just telling me about some of the news. So we have heard that His Holiness Bhakti Purushottam Swami Maharaj is not keeping well. He's down with COVID. We also heard about now that even Narsingha Maharaj, we heard that he is also tested COVID positive. So, and then we also have some devotees who are not keeping well, some more devotees, like we know, some of them from our congregation, Meenakshi Mataji, etc., whom I have heard, Yadunandan. So this is some news for whom we have to pray. We also heard a very nice, very good news that His Holiness Lokanath Swami Maharaj actually gave sannyas, initiation to Ekalavya Prabhu, and his name is Sri Krishna Chaitanya Swami. So for all this bad or good, whatever happens is by Krishna's will, but whatever Krishna so desires, let it so happen. So let us chant one time for all these calamities and for these wonderful things. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. So this is dedicated to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And let's just read the prayers. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Naranarayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naischiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Let us pray to the parampara that all that is troublesome to our heart is destroyed, and we gain loving service unto the personality of Godhead and to Jagannath. So as you all remember, Just tell you, we are still reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, and what we have noticed is um, the group of sages led by Saunaka Rishi asking questions to Sutta Goswami. These people are actually well-wishers, suhurd, the well-wishers for the entire world. So they are asking questions. And Sutta Goswami is answering those. And when he's answering, he is remembering the past times of how Parikshit was asking the same questions to Sukadev Goswami. And remembering those, he's answering them, right? So as we see in the first things where first they asked about the 6 questions, this is part A, where he asked about where the sages asked, define absolute truth, and what is the highest good, what are the essence of scriptures, what is the purpose of Krishna's appearance, who are Purusha avatars, what are Leela avatars, where did religion take shelter after Krishna's disappearance? And that was answered in the first few chapters, saying that the essence of all scriptures is devotional service. Religion took shelter in Srimad Bhagavatam. And that was the main, and what is the highest good is to develop love of God. And then they further asked some more questions. They asked further 4 questions. They asked why this Bhagavatam is compiled, when and where it is written. Then they knew that Parikshit is asking the question, so they asked about Parikshit's birth and activities. And then why did Parikshit give up everything to sit on the bank of Ganga? How Sukadeva was perceived in Hastinapur, because Sutta is referring to Parikshit and Sukadev, so it was but obvious that they will always respond saying, they were asking about Parikshit and Sukadev to him, So in one of the questions they asked about the birth and activities of Parikshit, So when they were asking the activities of Parikshit, so it was required that they needed the events which came up till the enthroning of Parikshit, till Parikshit got enthroned, Parikshit became the king, So in a matter of that, it is said that how Vidura returned back and preached to Dhritarashtra. Then Dhritarashtra left. Then in 14th chapter, we saw Krishna's disappearance. And then Pandavas will retire and enthrone. That's where we are today, just to give you all a brief. So what did we see in chapter 14? We saw something pretty interesting. We saw that Arjuna did not return, Arjuna hadn't returned. So Yudhishthira was seeing the omens. So Yudhishthira was anxious. He was revealing his fear that maybe Krishna, maybe Supreme Personality of Godhead has left the material world. And King Yudhishthira then sees some omens. He tells Bhima, hey, these are not looking good omens. These are not good omens. These good omens. These are bad omens, He concludes that by seeing the omens, those of them who are learned actually know that this is not good. So he said that concludes that Krishna's footprints will no longer grace this world. It looks like the time has come. At that time, Arjuna returns from Dwarka. And Yudhishthira asks about the welfare of Yadus. He asks, how are the Yadus? You have come back, how are the Yadus? But he sees Arjuna's countenance. Countenance means he sees Arjuna's facial expressions, Face is the index of mind. You see someone, you know directly how he is at that point of time. And more so when someone is very spiritual, they can see the others and understand what he or she is going through, So seeing Arjuna's face itself, he could conclude the possible cause. He thought that, okay, whatever I'm thinking, whatever omens I'm seeing, that is correct. He was just seeing Arjuna and he was feeling, seeing Arjuna's countenance, seeing Arjuna's facial expression, he was itself speaking about that. He was thinking about that, And it was during that time that so this was what happened in chapter 14, and then we see how chapter 15 starts up, So chapter 15 starts up with Arjuna feeling very strong feelings of separation on Krishna. So Yudhishthira is seeing Arjuna, and Arjuna is very grief-stricken, totally grief-stricken. His heart is uh, totally down. You can see someone and you know that they are sad, and not only sad, his mouth and his heart have dried up. Arjuna's mouth and heart has dried up. And then, but Yudhishthira has asked him questions. He's asked, what has happened? Did they mistreat you? He first asked about Yadivs, then he asked, did anyone mistreat you or anything? What happened? Why is your face looking like this? He was checking his tears of grief, and but he was not able to speak. His voice was choking up. He was overwhelmed, and being overwhelmed, he began to speak. So he was grief-stricken, his heart dried up, and then he starts to speak, And as he starts to speak, he says, he recalls what all Krishna's favors were there. He starts saying, O King, O brother Yudhishthira, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, who treated me exactly like an intimate friend, has left me alone. See, Krishna can fulfill all the relationships to the perfection. He's the perfect son to Yashoda. He's the perfect lover to Srimati Radharani, perfect friend to Arjuna, a perfect master to Hanuman. Similarly, he can fulfill all the relationships exactly. So he says, and he was treating me exactly like an intimate friend, has left me alone. He has gone away. He's not taken me. He's left and gone. He's left me alone. So, and Arjuna is then saying, because he has left me, the astounding power. I was considered to be the most powerful, The Pandavas went to the war thinking that Arjuna is on their side, Always Bhishma kept telling in Mahabharata that Arjuna is on the other side, so there is very low chance of us winning, He was always saying that we will lose. He's saying, my astounding power, which even astonished even the demigods, is no longer with me. She's seen that Krishna has left, and not only as soon as Krishna has left, the powers which were there with me, everything has gone. Krishna, nothing is happening up. And he starts recalling Krishna's favors one by one by one. He starts recalling. He starts remembering each one of them very nicely. Explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, each of these slokas, they remind about each one of them. He says that it was only through Krishna's favor, Krishna's presence, that there were many, I could defeat the lusty princes who were gathered together to take the hands of, who had come assembled for the Swamvara of Draupadi. So he says, Krishna's favor, nothing else. How else could I have gone through? At that time, they were in isolation. It was the time when Duryodhana had tried to, burn them off, and they were staying in incognito, and they had just come as Brahmanas, and first the Kshatriyas could not do. Then they asked, okay, if Kshatriyas cannot do, any Brahmanas can come over, and that's when Arjuna goes, and Arjuna then pierces the fish eye and gets the hand of Draupadi. He says that was only possible because of the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. Then he says it was only because of Krishna. The next he says, it was only because of Krishna that we could save Mayadanava. Reminds them of the Khandava Forest. When Khandava Forest, it is mentioned that the place where Dhritarashtra initially, before the war started, Dhritarashtra actually gave he divided the kingdom. He gave one of the most barren lands, the Khandava Prastha, to the Pandavas and said, "You grow." But the land may have been barren, but on one side there was a big forest, and the other part was barren. And fire, Agni Dev uh, requests Arjuna and Krishna, very nicely explained in the Mahabharata, that he comes and requests that please ensure that I can devour the Khandava Forest. He says, why he has to devour the Khandava Forest? That's again a particularly interesting thing. It's mentioned. It's like high effects of cholesterol, that's how you can remember this. It's like you take a lot of ghee, you cannot, you don't feel so active, That's what had happened. There was one sadhu who was doing yajna for thousands of years, and so Agni Dev had to eat the ghee for thousands of years, and so he became very pale. So very common analogy in my mundane word I can think of is cholesterol. So he goes and he says to Brahma, "What do I do? Not feeling so good." So he says, "Then you have to take some medicine, Baba." Medicine means some natural medicines, and those are present in the Khandava forest. So go, if eat the Khandava forest, ensure that you eat whatever is there, and then what will happen is you will, those forest fire, you take all of that, then you will get well soon. So he comes, he tries 3-4 times, he cannot do that, because every time what happens is there are some people who are there who pray to Indra, who pray to someone or the other, and rain comes and fire cannot eat the Khandava forest. So fire then comes, fire then asks, whom should I request? Then Brahma says, see, the only person who is more capable is Vishnu, so he's come as Krishna, so go ahead and talk to Krishna and Arjuna. He comes and he falls at the feet of Krishna, Arjuna, requests them. And so one side Arjuna fights, one side Krishna fights, and Agni Dev then comes. And they ensure that no one goes out of the forest fire in Khandava Prastha, in Khandava forest. And Agni Dev then eats everything. There were only few who were saved from that Khandava forest fire that's mentioned. But one of them was Maya Danava. He used to live there, but this Maya Danava comes and requests Arjuna. Because he requests Arjuna, Arjuna says, okay, I won't, we won't kill you, you can leave. So then he requests Arjuna, what do we want? Arjuna says, no, I don't want anything. Because you came at my shelter, I saved you. See, if Krishna wants anything, you can ask. So then Krishna says, okay, make a very nice assembly hall for these people, because Mayadanava is an architect, better architect than all of us. So Mayadanava then makes the big hall for the Pandavas. So Arjuna remembers that. Arjuna says that the Mayadanava made us the hall only because of Krishna. I asked him to do that. And he also remembers that it was only because of Krishna's presence that Bhima was able to defeat Jarasandha, So that also happened only because of his favor. So he's remembering each one of them as to how Jarasandha, Bhima could never defeat Jarasandha. It was only because Krishna gave him the due intelligence that he could defeat. When he remembers that it was only because of Krishna that says something very strong there. He says that the hairs of the widows of the Kauravas, Dusasana's wives and other Kauravas are loosened now. Dusasana mistreated, Dusasana ill-treated Draupadi. It was the biggest thing. So Krishna can tolerate anything, but cannot tolerate any offense to a devotee, and that to a nice devotee like Draupadi. And so the entire Kaurava clan was defeated. So, and Krishna took it on himself. Krishna protected Draupadi when no one else could, and then he says that it was only because of Krishna that today their hairs are loosened. And then he reminds Yudhishthira, you remember one time how we were saved from the wrath of Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni's wrath. Durvasa Muni came and said, I want to eat. But we didn't have anything to give. Duryodhana had sent Durvasa there. And he knew that if we cannot provide food uh, to Durvasa and his fellow disciples, then Durvasa will curse us. But then Draupadi had already eaten, so the Akshay Patra was not giving anything. But then the Supreme Personality of Godhead came at that time, and he ate a speck of grain which was left out. And when he was satisfied, Durvasa and his disciples were satisfied. And so they had to leave. So it was only possible because of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the wrath of Durvasa. We were saved from the wrath of Durvasa. He also reminds Yudhishthira that it was only because of Krishna's mercy that I could fight with Lord Shiva. And this is a beautiful fight which comes again in Mahabharata. This is like when they go on exile. So he goes to Arjuna. They know that the most important person is Arjuna. So Arjuna goes to get some weapons, and it is mentioned that he goes to the forest to do some penance. At that time, Lord Shiva comes as a hunterman, and Lord Shiva and Arjuna, both of them point their arrows at one particular boar. The boar is actually a demon, and then they shoot out the arrows, and the boar is dead. The end result is the demon is killed. But then Arjuna challenges Kirata. Kirata, it's like Shiva in form of a hunter, Kirata. And his wife is also there, Umadevi is also there. And it's mentioned that Arjuna asks Shiva, how can you do this? I had pointed my arrows first. Why did you send it out? Let us now fight it out as to who is the most powerful amongst us. And they fight, And Shiva is pleased by the astounding prowess of Arjuna, the archery skills, and he actually is pleased. There's a very nice, once again, a story. Each one of them is more than an hour, which can be spoken about. And but Shiva is very pleased, and Shiva then gives him the Pashupata Astra to Arjuna. So Arjuna says, that is only possible because of the mercy of Krishna, nothing else, that I could even astound Lord Shiva. Then he remembers that not only about that, there were also a class of demons called as the Nivata Kavachas. It's called Nivata Kavachas. So he said the Nivata Kavachas, they were a class of demons who had got some boon from Brahma. The boon was such that no devatas can defeat them. So they were creating nuisance all across. And at that time only, after getting the Pashupata Astra from Shiva, Arjuna had gone to, Indra had come, and Indra had taken him for some days to his Indraloka, And after staying there, that's where he learned the art of dancing from Chitrasen. He gets that curse from Urvasi also to become an Inach. And there Indra and the Devatas actually request Arjuna that you should please help us to defeat the Nivata Kavachas. And he single-handedly killed the Nivata Kavachas. So he says that it is only by Lord's mercy. See, it's mentioned that when he was fighting with this Maya Danava, even Indra comes to fight with him. The Devatas come to fight with him, but no one can defeat him. So he defeats Indra here. And in this case, in case of Nivata Kavachas, Indra takes his help to defeat the demons. So just imagine how powerful Arjuna was. So Arjuna is saying, but this power was only because of the mercy of Lord Sri Krishna, nothing else. that I could defeat even these people. So then he says, not only this, even during Virata, when he's going in a sequence, So after that, when they came and they stayed in incognito, and then the last day of their incognito, when the total Kauravas, led by Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Ashwathama, Kripa, Duryodhana, all of them they were attacking Virata kingdom, and the king of Virat means he was fighting on the other side with the Trigarthas. So he was saying that only by Krishna's grace I was able to defeat all of them single-handedly. Everyone single-handedly defeated, and not only that, he says that actually when he's coming, Uttara, later stage of time, who becomes the daughter-in-law of Arjuna, Abhimanyu's wife, Uttara would have requested Brihanala or Arjuna that please get the helmets of the kings so that we know that you all have actually. So he says that it was only by force that many helmets of the kings, in Bhagavatam it says helmets, somewhere else in other Mahabharata it says that the top clothes of the Kauravas, but we should go with Srimad Bhagavatam with what Srila Prabhupada said. So he collects the jewels, the helmets of the kings, of all the helmets of the kings. So helmets of all the kings he collects, except for Bhishma. He leaves Bhishma's and he collects and he comes. He says, can you beat it? One person defeating that Atirathis, those Maharathis, all of them who were individually possible of killing one entire army, he could defeat. He says this is only possible because of the mercy of Lord Sri Krishna. And not only this, he remembers the Mahabharata war after that. He says, on our side, we only had, we had less army than the Kauravas. Elsewhere, we see that they had 11 Akshanis, the Kauravas. This side had 8 Akshanis. And you're saying that we were less, but still, we were able to defeat all of them. All of them. We were able to defeat all of them just because Krishna was on our side. Otherwise, how is it possible that we could defeat everyone and we could emerge victorious? No one gave a chance for victory, No one of them. Everyone were thinking that the Kauravas will win because given their army strength, except for devotees. Devotees were knowing that it is Krishna is only going to win, So that's what he remembered all of that. And one last thing, this was pretty interesting what he says in his thing. He says, not only all of this, anytime I got down from the chariot, see, sometimes Arjuna got down from his chariot. When you get down from the chariot to give water to the horses, you get down from the chariot and you give water to the horses. So anyone could have attacked, Arjuna, because that's okay. Means though initially some days they followed all the rules and regulations, but later they didn't. So anyone could have come down and killed him. But he says no one of them actually killed me when I got down from my chariot to feed the horses. So no one of them got down. So he said all of this is only and only possible because of the mercy of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. And he says that whatever it was happening just now, but after Krishna has left, now that I'm separated from my friend, from my dearmost well-wisher, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, my heart is wide. And the same Arjuna, I have been defeated by some cowherdmen. Just imagine, I defeated Indra, I defeated the demons whom Indra could not defeat, I defeated the total Kaurava army. He gave all of those things. I could do everything, and here I'm not able to defeat a chunk of infidel cowherdmen who don't even know how to use their bows and arrows. And that too, when I was guarding the bodies of all the wives of Krishna, I was defeated by this cowherd man. How can you check this? It's me, the same Arjuna. I'm having the same Gandiva. I'm having the same arrows. I'm having the same horses. I'm having the same chariot. But what is it that is not there with me that I cannot even defeat these people? What is it? And very nicely in that same, he's saying, it's just like the only difference is the absence of Krishna. Just because Krishna is not there, everything else, whatever strength, whatever ability, Krishna says that, I am the ability in man. So Arjuna is realizing that, he's saying that all that ability and other things is there. That was only because of Krishna's presence. Otherwise, now it is as if, even though I have all of these things, it is as if I'm offering clarified butter on ashes. See, if you put butter in fire, the fire will burn more and more. But you offer clarified butter on ashes, nothing will happen. Or you accumulate some money with a magic wand, it will again go away. Or you sow some seeds on barren land, everything will go away. Nothing will happen. He says all of this is due to only because Krishna is absent. Now, I don't have any strength. So we have to realize that anything we have, that is only till Krishna so desires. Because till Krishna desires and Krishna thinks that we will use it in the service of him, we'll use it, we'll have that. When he does not want, then it will go away. And so pride falls before a man falls. So we have to be always so sure about what we are doing, how we are practicing our devotional life. Now, Arjuna, the topmost devotee, is saying that he's not having that strength because Krishna is not there. Of course, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that, why those, many of you may have questions, so I'm just preempting this. So why those wives of Krishna, some of them were kidnapped by those cowherd men, why were that? So he says that once when Ashtavakra Muni was in heaven, so he was pleased by the service of the denizens of heaven. So he blessed them that, okay, you can have Lord Krishna as your husband. Later, these daughters of the demigods, they could not check their laughter, upon seeing the movements of Ashtavakra Muni. Ashtavakra means 8 places. In 8 joints he was born. And so he moved in a peculiar curved manner. So seeing this, they, when they laughed, so he cursed them. He cursed them that you're laughing at me, you will be, you think you're more powerful, but you cannot even save yourself. So in order to keep the words of the great Muni, it's mentioned that the Lord himself kidnapped his wives from the protection of Arjuna. So it was just to keep up. So Krishna keeps up the words of his devotees more than he will keep up his word. And of course, it was also the time of winding up of the his pastimes here. So some of the gopis who prayed to become the wives, they returned to their respective positions. Anyway, coming back here, so Arjuna's thought, Arjuna was saying, I don't have any strength now because Krishna is not there. And then he, after saying all of this, then answers about what happened in the dynasty. He says that the Yadu dynasty has fought among themselves, and except for 4 or 5 of them, the rest all of them are killed. And like a bigger whale, bigger fish eats a smaller fish, similarly the bigger Yadus kill the smaller Yadus, and so on and so forth. And the total Yadu dynasty is destroyed. Of course, Krishna, Arjuna then says, of course. Means he's explaining, because Yudhishthira asked, what about Yadu dynasty? So Krishna then said, yeah. So Arjuna says the Yadu dynasty is destroyed now, except for 4 or 5 of them, But he says all of this is happening because of Lord's will. The Lord wanted to, he starts thinking that, yes, this is happening due to Lord's will. He had become, if you remember when we started up this chapter, he was totally grief-stricken, he could not talk, etc. Right? So, but then as soon as He started speaking, he started thinking about the pastimes of the Lord. As he started speaking, he understood, he started understanding that this is all Lord's will. So it is very important that we keep remembering the Lord's pastimes. That's the only way to come out of any time we are in some very intolerable situations, Actually, that's what uh, Arjuna says, in the 27th sloka. He says that I'm not getting Vapu now. Vapu means physical association of Lord Sri Krishna now, because he has left. But this is the time I should increase my Vani. I should focus on the instructions which Krishna has given me. He says, let me start focusing on Lord's instructions. So while Vapu is coming down, means in fact zero here, he's saying I should focus on the instructions. And Arjuna was given the best instructions in the form of Bhagavad Gita. And Arjuna starts remembering that. So very, very, very particular instructions. See, you have to remember this. See, where is Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita is in part of Mahabharata. What was Mahabharata written for? For who was it written? It was written for fools like us. Just imagine, only for fools like us. It's mentioned that those of them who could not understand Vedas or Upanishads, for them Mahabharata was written. So because for them Mahabharata was written, and in that Bhagavad Gita was written. So Bhagavad Gita is supposed to be a very easy treatise for people to understand. Now you can imagine, if that is very easy to understand, what is difficult to understand. And of course, then Arjuna started focusing on the instructions, Manmanava Bhava Mad Bhakta Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru, the most confidential instructions of Krishna, that you have to be engaged in the transcendental devotion, and then Arjuna starts focusing. And when he starts focusing, the information starts like this, that he's absorbed in instructions. He gets absorbed in all the instructions whatever Krishna had given. And it's mentioned that as soon as he got absorbed in instructions, then his recycle bin, the trash in thoughts, whatever trash he had in thoughts, that got subdued. So for some time he couldn't even speak, he was totally dejected. So only at that time, trash in thoughts were subdued. And then he could, till then, it was the senses who had overtaken Arjuna. But it's mentioned that after that, he again became the Lord of senses. He as a devotee, he started, the soul started directing the intelligence started directing mind, and mind started directing the senses. And so all his doubts were cleared. So this only happened when he started focusing on Lord's instructions. So you can imagine how in depth is Bhagavad Gita. Even Arjuna is using the instructions of Bhagavad Gita to get over the separation from Lord Sri Krishna himself. So he thinks about that. And when he starts thinking about that, now hearing him, who had asked him the question? Yudhishthira had asked him the question. So hearing now about this, and when he sees that, okay, Arjuna has now come to senses, Arjuna is now better, because he had initially got very worried. But then as soon as Yudhishthira hears this, Yudhishthira decides to retire. So Yudhishthira decides to retire. And when Yudhishthira decides to retire, Kunti overhears. It's mentioned that Kunti overhears and starts engaging in devotional service. Kunti engaged in devotional service, and that's the only way to get over the lamentation or the separation, not lamentation, separation. So separation from Krishna can only be overcome by engaging in devotional service. There is no other way. There is no other way. So similarly, today we are celebrating Gaur Purnima, where the Lord is in separation. And what did he say? He said that we should be engaged. We should be engaged in devotional service. Mama Janmani Sware Bhavatad Bhaktir Ahetuki Tvai. Ahetuki. Engaged in continuous devotional service. That's what Mahaprabhu has said. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagadisha kamai. So Mahaprabhu says that nothing else. I just want to be engaged in devotional service. And that's what Kunti said. Kunti did also. Kunti got engaged in devotional service. Yudhishthira decides to retire. So once he decided to retire, he said, okay, perfect. Now I have to find who is my successor. So he immediately enthrones Parikshit in Hastinapur and he enthrones Vajra in Mathura. Is the same Vajranabh who will later establish the deities of Madar Mohan, Gopinath, and Govindadev. So Yudhishthira then enthrones Vajra in Mathura and enthrones Parikshit in Hastinapur, and then says, okay, that's it. Once he enthrones, he doesn't again enter into that activities again. He starts thinking of the most important activity for this, for me at this point of time is I have enthroned Parikshit. He will take care of the subject because that is also required as a king. But let Parikshit now take care of the kingdom. I should start meditating myself on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what did he did? How did he Yudhishthira retire? Very nicely it's mentioned. He actually left all his kingly clothes. He took up torn up clothes. He ate solid foods. He voluntarily became dumb. Even though he was not speaking anything, he became thoughtful, more thoughtful. He was just immersed in his thoughts, not listening to anyone. He looked like madman, and he started walking towards north. He started walking, and as soon as he did this, the brothers also started following. So the brothers thought, okay, Yudhishthira is doing, so we should also do. So all the brothers also started following across him, And when they did that, it is mentioned the Pandavas later attained Golok Vrindavan. Very categorical Prabhupada writes that all of them attained Golok Vrindavan. So there is many a time questions, did all the Pandavas reach or not reach? So very clearly it is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, I think 47, 48, where it is mentioned attained Golok Vrindavan. So all the Pandavas attained Golok Vrindavan. So something particularly very interesting after that, it's mentioned about Vidura also, what happened to Vidura, So Vidura, you remember, right? Vidura came back in chapter 13 and Vidura then chastised Dhritarashtra and all of that, right? So Vidura, it's mentioned that left his body at Prabhas Kshetra, and then he reached Pitraloka, where he was the king of the Pitraloka. He returned to his original position as Yamaraj. So one of the Mahajanas. So Vidura did it. And with Draupadi and Subhadra, it's mentioned that Draupadi and Subhadra understood that their husbands have left them, so they also have to follow. It's only mentioned the name of Draupadi in that verse, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he writes in the purport that it also refers to Subhadra. And there, one very nice thing Prabhupada writes, which I thought, he says that everyone has to fly their own airplanes. When you are in a flight, you can only take care of yourself. You cannot take care of the flights of the other people. Maybe inside your flight, whoever there you can do, but what about other planes? You cannot do that. So everyone have to fly their own planes. So at one point of time, you have to realize that the only solace is Lord Sri Krishna, no one else. And so Draupadi and Subhadra understood this, and they concentrated on Lord Sri Krishna's lotus feet, and it's mentioned that they also attained the lotus feet of Krishna. And okay, so this is the wonderful thing as we come to the end. It is mentioned that anyone, the sons of Pandu departed to Goloka, and anyone who hears this narration, of course, with faith, it's mentioned that anyone who hears this narration of the sons of Pandu departing to Goloka will gain devotional service to Lord. Haribol. That's very, very interesting that one will gain devotional service to Lord just by hearing this wonderful pastime of how the Pandavas retired timely. So a timely retirement is very much required. So devotees should also think about it. And most important thing, anyone who hears about this will gain devotional service to Lord. nothing else. That's what we saw that. Okay, that is what is mentioned that Kunti did as soon as she heard that Lord Sri Krishna had left. So that is the most important thing, to engage in devotional service to Lord. Day before yesterday or something, one devotee asked, maybe 2-3 days back, a devotee asked to Jaipatak Maharaj, what should we pray on? Pray to Chaitanya on Gaur Purnima, and Maharaj actually made a joke, means first little bit joke with that person, said, what will you pray? What will you pray? You'll pray for this, you'll pray for that, you'll ask for bigger things? No, he said, one should remember how Kolavecha Sridhar did. Even when the Lord offered him to make him the master of the 3 worlds, said him whatever he needs in the 3 worlds will be given to him. What did Kolavecha Sridhar say? Kolavecha Sridhar said, no, please just ensure that I be present, I can be engaged in devotional service. I can be engaged in your service life after life. That is the only thing I need. And when he requested that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him Krishna Prem. So Jaipatak Maharaj, Guru Maharaj said that we should pray to be engaged in devotional service to the Lord. And in fact, this chapter, when we read it, we gain devotional service to the Lord. So anything you do, if we can put that, we chant nicely, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So if we engage ourselves in prayerful mood to the Lord, asking Him for service, then we will actually gain the most important thing which is required. That is, if He so pleases, He will give us Krishna Prem. We'll stop here. Thank you. I think we have, we'll give some time for questions. It's 10:56. We can have question answers till 11:05 because I have another program at 11:15. So we'll stop here. Okay, I have a question here. Is Pitraloka same as Yamaloka? Okay, the Pitras stay at Pitraloka. So that's where Yama is the king. So he goes back there. Lokananda Prabhu. Any other questions? Or your quiz link will be put in your WhatsApp group after the class. Achyut Prabhu will put it out there. Any one of you have any questions? Or thank you. Is it that you are not able to unmute yourself or something? It looks like you are not able to do that. Let me just see. Okay, I have the host permissions. Okay, I have allowed you to unmute yourself. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. I have a question. Thank you, Shanti Mataji. I have a question from iPhone. Prabhuji, you mentioned that Arjuna fought with everyone earlier also. I didn't get that.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yeah, I think the chat got disabled. Anyway, yeah, so this is a very basic question. So sorry for the naiveness.
No question is basic. Let
so
me
you
make
mentioned,
it very clear. Every question is good. You can ask. If I know, I'll tell you. Otherwise,
okay.
I'll tell you.
So, okay, because you mentioned that Arjuna fought with the same set of people earlier also. And so my simple question is, at that time, didn't he have the same questions like which he had in Kurukshetra about why I should fight them and all that? Sorry.
Okay, you mean with the Kauravas, right?
Yeah. Because you said, right, while remembering Krishna's favors, there was one, I forget which place, but
Yeah, that
he
was at the
fought.
Virata kingdom. Okay.
Right,
Very nice
right.
question. Yeah, okay. Let me try
So
answering. So,
yeah.
so if you have read Mahabharata, or if you have heard about the pastimes, so it so happened that they had to go 12 years of exile and then 1 year stay as incognito. If they are caught in that year, then they have to again serve 12 years of exile. So during that time, Arjuna was actually staying as a dance teacher to the daughter of the king of Virat. I forget his name, to Uttara. So, what happened was
Brihannala. His name was
his name was
Brihannala.
Brihanala. His name was Brihanala. I don't remember Virat asking his name. So, or whether his name was King Virat itself. Virata Desa.
Virata and the daughter is Uttara.
Uttara, correct. So Uttara's dance teacher he was. Now, what happened was these people, somehow Duryodhana found out that maybe these people are in this kingdom. So he thought we should attack this kingdom. So when you are supposed to attack, these Bhishma, etc., they inquired, why should we attack some kingdom? There is no need for attacking a kingdom, but somehow he convinced that attack this kingdom. And in the same time, he asked his friend, I think the Trigarthas, to attack the kingdom from the other side. So they attacked from the other side, and the Kauravas, they came to take they took so many, I think 60,000 or 1,20,000 cows or something. They came and they are taking. So from one side, these people are attacking. The other side, the Trigarthas have attacked, and the Trigarthas attacked first. So what happened was Virata went there to fight with them. He was a very able king. So when he went to fight out there, and actually Nakula, Sahadeva, they all were helping in the cow herd, as a cow herd, as it means someone who takes care of the horses, and Bhima was the cook also, and so on and so forth. So what happened was they all also went except Arjuna. Now the news came that the Kauravas have come from the other side and they are taking the cows and going. So who will go? There was the only one person who was left, was Virata's son. So he, in a moment of rage, or just a matter of boasting, he said to others that I am alone, I can defeat everyone, and he will go away. So when he was going, at that time, Draupadi suggested through the queen. Draupadi is there as Sairendri, that means who helps in as something like a who helps in beautifying the queen, hair dressing and others. Anyway, that doesn't matter. So she says, so they say, how will that person help? He says that she says that I know he can drive the chariot better. So Arjuna goes that way, Brihanala goes that way, just to drive the chariot of the son's name is also Uttara. The daughter's name is Uttara and Uttara. So when the son goes, and as they reach, these Pandavas would have kept their weapons on top of a tree. So he goes, he says, let us get this weapons down. When he gets the weapon down, then Uttara asks, who are you? He says, I am Arjuna. He reveals himself. He says, oh, you're Arjuna. Okay, he falls at his feet. He said, no problem. He says that let us go to fight, because the Kauravas have come to fight. Now, because the Kauravas have come to fight there, Arjuna was very clear that he has to defeat them because they are staying in this place. But he was also clear that he will not kill them because his brother Bhima had taken a vow that he will be killing the Kauravas. He had to only defeat these people. But in case of Mahabharata war, it was that they knew that it has to be either death, either one of them will die. So that's why Arjuna didn't have those confusions at this point of time. And Arjuna actually, after fighting, uses a sammohana weapon, if I'm not wrong. By the sammohana weapon, everyone actually falls asleep or they go unconscious. And when they are unconscious, he goes and he asks, actually Uttara says he won't fight. He says, you be my charioteer. So they go and they remove the mukuts of everyone and they come back. So it was a different context of fighting. He was fighting to save another kingdom and to save the cows. I hope that answers you.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
That's a different context in which the fight was happening. In case of Mahabharata, they had to fight. So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Okay, one more question before we end. Meera Narayana Mataji's question. In the purport, it is written, Draupadi did not have to quit the body. What does this mean? Yes, it. If you would have read the purport, Prabhupada writes, Draupadi did not have to quit the body like her husband. That's what is mentioned, you know. That means she also attained Goloka as is what is to be understood. Now, in the general understanding which we understand that Draupadi left her body and then only Yudhishthira reached in the same body to the heavenly planets. But here it is mentioned that all the Pandavas, like in 47, 48, it mentioned that the Pandavas reached Golok as is, and it's also mentioned that in a subsequent verse, it is mentioned Draupadi and Subhadra, that they reach Golok also as is. Now, some things are beyond my understanding also, but it is mentioned that they as is, like, as she was, Draupadi is the same way. We can understand that way. I couldn't understand more than that. And also, I was also trying to read the Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata. I usually read a Mahabharata by Purna Pragya Prabhu. So, trying to figure out as to how the Mahabharata ends, you know, wherein it says that Yudhishthira comes and sees everyone together at one particular place, and he sees Duryodhana, he sees Bhishma and others. Yes, that also happens in Mahabharata. It is mentioned that is a small get together before they reach the final destination of Goloka. He comes and he sees in the heaven that everyone are there, where he also figures out that the five, all the Pandavas are Indra themselves in different lifetimes, and Draupadi is Indra's wife itself. But because of different pastimes, they have come, and now they have to go back to their respective positions. So everyone who had come for the Lord's pastime goes back to each place. So when Prabhupada writes, Draupadi did not have to quit the body, you just understand that didn't have to quit. She reached Goloka as is, as Draupadi herself, and not as when I leave the body, I will not go as a Nadi. I will, in my Swarupa, whatever it is, I will go out there. But Draupadi may have returned back the same way as. I hope that answers you, Meera Mataji. I don't have much to speak on that. Hare Krishna. Okay. So thank you all for attending this Bhagavatam, Sunday Bhagavatam. And as I said you, anyone who heard the pastime of the Pandavas retiring timely and departure of the Pandavas to Golok will gain devotional service. So I pray to Gauranga Mahaprabhu that you all get the mercy of him and attain the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna or Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Guru Gauranga. If you all give a minute, you all can take darshan of the deities, Radha Gokulananda and Jagannath, wherever I am. Just give me a minute, please.
to ಓದ್ಬೇಕು ಕಣ ರಿಯಲಿ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಮ್ಯಾನ್ ಭಾಗವತಂ ಡೈಲಿ ಒಂದೊಂದು ಪರ್ಪಟ್ ಓದಿದ್ರೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ವಾರ ಟಾರ್ಗೆಟ್ ಇಟ್ಕೋಬೇಕು.
Just connecting on my mobile so that I can show you the details. Just give me. Okay, so this is Garnitai, Jagannath Baldev Subhadramai, Radha Krishna, and big Jagannath Baldev Subhadramai. Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining. Catch up with you all again.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Dandavat pranam, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripasindhubhyascha,
Hare Krishna.
Pitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo.
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna. Dandavat.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.